A good question was put to me the other day why I'm atheistic rather than agnostic when it comes to belief in a deity. At a glance, it did seem a little irrational of me because although I've effortlessly shot down every argument I've encountered for the existence of God, and will probably do so again as part of this series, still a lack of proof of something doesn't really prove its opposite. And yet I find it easier to believe there's no creator than to suspend belief on the subject altogether, which struck me as strange. There must be some sort of epistemic budgeting going on wherein too much friction is added to every mundane decision if so pervasive a question is still floating in the air. Pascal's wager splits life in 4 potential directions. 1. You believe in God, and you're right, which he considers the biggest win. 2. You believe in God, but you're wrong, which he considers a minor detriment, not a big deal. 3. You don't believe in God, and you're right, which he concedes to be a minor benefit. And 4. You don't believe in God, but you're wrong and suffer the ultimate loss. So by his estimation, belief in God costs you a little bit up front in terms of freedom and pleasure, and pays off either hugely or zero in the end, whereas disbelief saves you the upfront cost, at the risk of either zero or hugely negative returns. But then when you ask which God, which version of that God, and which religious observance of that God is the correct one, it's not such a tidy thing to compute, and the risks are high no matter which choice you make. Jesus and Allah and Shiva might all be standing in that light at the end of the tunnel holding baseball bats because you thought Buddhism was the safest choice. Blaise Pascal was thinking like a child anyway. What if parts of Christianity are true and parts are false? What if there's a God with strong opinions, but no life after death? What if the lifestyle constraints of belief are a net benefit even if the belief is false? I think that's an idea worth exploring in a future episode. A postulate of my 8-year-old self, what if worshipping God in heaven for eternity gets boring, but you're stuck there? Would an immortal moth get tired of the immortal lamp someday, or is he simply hardwired with that glitch? Point is, the incentives for making up one's mind are strongly conflicted, and yet I've chosen to believe that all gods are made up. Why? I could say that the clear profit motive in those most strongly promulgating each faith is simply too suspicious, as the devotees of any one religion would readily say about any other religion. Ask any Christian whether they think Hubbard started Scientology for nobler motives than the accumulation of wealth and power. Conflicts of interest aren't solid evidence of anything being false, though. Your doctor scheduling another checkup next month just to be safe does so with an obvious profit motive, but it's also probably what's best for you, and he might even care. So no, I think there's something much deeper than mistrust driving my choice. After all, nobody makes much money if I start believing in ghosts, especially ghosts without names. I suppose every budding religion has to start somewhere, and for sure someone's auctioning off a haunted VHS tape right now, but the fact is that most unaffiliated promoters of the supernatural aren't trying to sell me anything, and yet I find their beliefs just as crazy as Tom Cruise's. Enough beating around the burning bush, here's my serious answer. Intuition. I trust my brain, self-deceptive though it can be. I think the burden of proof is on the position opposite experience. I believe in the existence of the chair I'm sitting in by default, and it would take a strong argument to convince me otherwise, or even to simply relax my certainty about it. In fact, life would become unnecessarily complicated if I became agnostic in regards to the realities of seating, and chairs are presumably a much smaller issue to leave unsettled. It's appeared functionally useful to accept my interpretations of sensory input at pretty much every moment of the last 33 years. I've had no supernatural experiences, and everything I deal with seems explainable by natural mechanisms, so Occam's razor says not to add any gods to the mix. One fun idea to run with, though: if you're insane, how would you know it? Since more people believe in a god than don't, it seems more likely that there's a faculty of understanding I lack due to some abnormality in brain development than it does to say I have an extra brain function which is missing in most of the population, doesn't it? Tribal insiders have more survival value than outsiders, so there's clear selection pressure towards a propensity for accepting the concepts held by the majority of those around you. The low weight I assign social signals in estimating truth could be a mutation. Like Ricky Gervais said, it's not my fault God made me an atheist.